Hey, thanks for watching. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. If you want me to play your deck on stream, feel free to reach out. Contact information in the description below. Also, I stream Legacy live almost every day at twitch.tv/Anzidmtg. So come by and say hi. It's time for some magic. Let's get to it. Is this Jarvis's deck? Oh, it is Jarvis. Okay, we're gonna talk about this one instead. So I want you to instead, because I can't copy and paste the deck in otherwise. So just tell me like how Jarvis is actually supposed to play this matchup out.
Jarvis needs to kill him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's
So,
simple.
there's only like so many things you can do, but like I guess in theory, if you got enough lands into play, you could try to like punishing fire the Oracle twice if they're really sloppy and still have a card in their deck. So then you have their devotion be 0, but that's unlikely to happen.
Well,
Um,
you say that like it's like sloppy, but I think a real element of Doomsday sometimes is even understanding like when you can go off, like quote go
the
off, like
well,
with.
the problem is like other than exactly a 2020 and maybe like some interesting like heavy wasteland shenanigans, it's just like not very probable. But like, Jarvis knows that he has to mulligan aggressively in this matchup, what he's looking for. And yeah, just like quick 2020 and then or heavy wasteland with like recursion, so either like Crucible, Life from the Loam, something like that.
Okay, yeah. Is there anything in like the sideboard that you think is like particularly interesting in the matchup? I
Fear's
guess.
good. Yeah, and Red Blast.
Okay,
So
yeah.
Is-
Also,
is- and endurance can mess up some things too, right? Because you get to shuffle the graveyard.
yeah, true. Actually, now that I think about it, Jarvis's
It's
entire sideboard,
and
I guess
Torpor.
minus the Force of Vigors, could like come in, right?
Yep. Yeah, I don't think it's 1% like people are saying in chat, but I think it's not favorable, but I don't think it's like 0. I think you have a shot. Like they still need to combo before you do your normal lands thing.
And I guess it's a function of mana denial as well.
Yep.
So Jarvis, yeah. So now that I think about it, I mean, but deck lists are open too, right? So it's not like whatchamacallit, these like special tricks and shenanigans that are happening, like if for Jim on Doomsday, like he knows the endurances are coming. He knows that all this stuff is happening. So
Well,
it's
so
like
so one edge that Jarvis does have is that since it's open deck list, like obviously die roll's important and stuff like that, but since it's open deck list, Jarvis doesn't always get bodied game one because you're allowed to mulligan aggressively. But
okay.
if this wasn't open deck list, you might keep some hands that are fine in some matchups, but like you might just keep a hand because it has like Punching Fire Grove, and that's just good against like and with Mox Diamond, and that's just good against a subset of matchups because it's like Ragavan based or something. But you're allowed to now mulligan those and get like increase your win equity in game one.
Okay, yeah. No, I guess that makes sense. All right, so I just finished the UI, which means that the players are going to be ready very soon because we just have to wait for the thing to catch up. So I'm trying to think. Oh no, what is this? Okay, cool. Time. Is there anything else that I'm kind of missing? So what about from the Doomsday side, right? I mean, I'm going to assume that it's the same thing. It's just a race to the finish.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It'll be interesting. There's some like interesting counterplay with how you develop your lands in the beginning. Like you might hold off on some cantrips and just leave some fetches up if you have a slightly more explosive hand. That way you don't get you aren't as susceptible to wasteland. Um,
Okay.
so I do think like the mana denial aspect slash 2020 speed is like the most important part of the matchup. So as a result, once again, knowing open deck lists, you might play fetch land and pass on turn one instead of like fetch land ponder, depending
Gotcha.
on how many like rituals you have.
Yeah. The rather is
Okay.
which one you ban. I guess I
Yeah.
should say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely Ragavan. I mean, it's just like I think Days promotes like very fun, interesting play patterns. Like it's this Phantom Thalia that you can choose to play into if you want to. You can't choose to have Ragavan not hit you all the time. Like you're just gonna have to keep some hands and hope they don't have Ragavan, which is very different than like, oh, at least you're behind a turn because you played Days and stuff. It's just how the format works. Just suck it up. Like just like go play Pioneer. I love Pioneer. It's great. If you don't want to deal with
Um,
Days, play that.
I love the directness too. This just like the. But speaking of which, looking at the hands right now, we've gotten pretty hard here, right? We are Dark Ritual Doomsdaying with Days and Consider and one land only in a Wasteland matchup, which is kind of scary. But this
Yeah.
is a mulligan to 5, so you kind of like keep what you get, right?
First of all, I want to thank chat for agreeing with me. I'd
Woohoo!
like to think I didn't influence that at all, and I'm also not. I also tend to not be that like direct about my opinion on a lot of things because I don't want to like influence people in that sort of way and want people to like have contradictory things. But if you're talking about banning like Brainstorm or Days or Wasteland, just get out of here. Just play something else.
No bias either, right? No, I kind of like what Days has to offer, but I also like one downside. So players are still going to be figuring out this decision here. I think people are keeping. Sure. The one downside, and I'm being real with you here, the deck that we saw in round one today, Connor's deck, which was the 4-color loam deck, is such an incredible deck. I think like
Mhm.
that is like taking deck building to the next level, right? Where you have Ragavan, but not in like the easy day shell that everyone is playing it in. It just really makes me excited because that is potentially a future of Legacy that we are missing. Now, that being said, I think at the end of the day, I'm allowed to just say, well, you can print cards like Ragavan that are very well balanced, right? Like look at Dragon's Rage Channeler, right? That is a very good card here. And we'll get to the match here, but I do think that, we do miss out on some stuff, but you can balance it. So really it's on WotC to just print really good cards here. Dark Ritual Doomsday, though, that's some funky stuff right there.
Yeah, yeah, good segue. So, turn one Doomsday versus turn one Life from the Loam. It's really anyone's game. So let's consider what piles you can make here. So
Woohoo!
you can consider the coconut and consider its tree. So what happens is you want still Lion's Eye Diamond because that produces the most mana, right? And then you also need Thassa's Oracle. And then if you have the Deep Analysis thing, let's see. So I guess the easiest way to go about this is like you can play Consider.
Mm-hmm.
So you can make yourself draw a mana source. You can play Consider without floating. You can just draw the Lion's Eye Diamond. I think that's the easiest.
Okay.
And then you can consider into a land after milling whatever. Yeah, it's fine. It's all fine. Okay. Oh,
Wait.
sorry, you have to play around Wasteland. That's why you have to do it this way. I get it.
Yeah. I was gonna say Wasteland, even crop rotation on Bajuka Bog would be a little bit annoying because you could technically like with the Lion's Eye Diamond on the stack exile something like Deep Analysis. It's oh wow. Okay, wait, we're just walking down slowly and going in for the walking up slowly, forgive me, and just down smashing? Is that just it? Consider yeah, fetch. Keep the Thassa's Oracle on top. Yeah, just put it into play and okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doomsday gets game one. We'll take a look at the deck list
Yeah.
again.
So I do like so people talk about all the packages you can find with Doomsday and you could come up with all these fancy piles and stuff, but at the end of the day it's really like, hey, I just need to play around Wasteland and there's really nothing else reasonable you're gonna be able to do here, so that's pretty sweet.
Sure. Yeah, I mean there are a lot of ways to play around Wasteland. I think one example might be what is it called? Um like Lion's Eye Diamond or Lotus Petal esque tricks. However, the way that Jim has set it up here is kind of ingenious because, okay, maybe Jarvis has to like wasteland the Scalding Tarn in order to induce a shuffle, but even that's not good enough because there's an Underground Sea in play.
Yep.
You're just like a stall is what you're trying to do from Jarvis's side. Um, but I don't know. I
Yeah,
think
just shove in the sideboard, it's fine. We'll figure
sure.
it out later.
Yeah. So the sideboard is up here. I think we pretty much talked about this before, but the endurances come in, red blasts come in, the spheres come in, torpor comes in. There's a lot of good stuff here from Jarvis's sideboard. I'm more interested in like what comes out because it's easy to find out what is good in the matchup, what's bad.
Yeah, so Maze of Ith isn't great. Um, Bajuka Bog's probably not great.
Okay, yeah. Those are
And
reasonable
then
cards. Pyrite
Valakut's,
Spellbomb, Crucible.
yeah, yep, those aren't great. And then
Ooh,
Pithing Needle,
yeah. That's what I
you,
was about to ask you. Do you keep Pithing Needle in the deck?
what do you name?
Polluted Delta.
No. And then you
Oh,
can,
oh, you said that's like so like you're like nope, get out. You're like, do you think the okay? So that's a really good question then, because the follow up is, do you think the matchup is bad enough that you would want to keep in some sort of like cheese tactic? Because I think it is, but I think you're saying that it might not be.
I, I think you have like a bunch, you still get to play turn one sphere. Like, I think you still have some amount of interaction.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sure. So then, if we're talking about interaction, I see 7 cards on one side and I see 7 cards on the other side. What the heck? This is not how I expected the hands to line up, but you got endurance plus Red Blast, and on the other side you've got Dark Ritual, Doomsday, Force of Will. So, my, this is kind of a crazy one. What the heck?
Yeah, so you have the ability to go for turn one Doomsday again, but are you gonna be able to beat Endurance with Red Elemental Blast is the question.
Dude, this is why this deck is so ridiculous, man. Like, this is what you. So we talked about this earlier in the stream, but the reason I think Doomsday is so good is because you just destroy every deck that doesn't rhyme with Schmelver of Schmeekrits. You know what I mean? Like that Delver of Secrets. Okay, Delver of
Well,
Secrets.
you know that rhyming is usually just like the last word in the phrase, right? Like that's good enough.
But then it sounds weird because if I say Delver of Schmeekrits, it's like a very clear giveaway.
Wait,
Okay, fine.
you don't think the Schmeekerits part is the weird part of that phrase, though?
It's the part that I wanted to say. I was gonna say Schmelver, and then I was like, actually, that's kind of awkward too. Anyways, my point being is like this is what you do to the rest of the format, and literally like Delver of Secrets is the one deck that you just cannot like pull over with this kind of crazy hand because they do the same thing right back to you, except they have more. Maybe they have more interaction in Wasteland and things like that. So I don't know. You see this hand and you're like, whoa, this is insane. Dark Ritual, Doomsday, Forcible, and I'm just like, this is like a Wednesday afternoon for me. This is what Doomsday normally does. If you can't beat it, you know, you're not in a good spot. So I don't know.
It's just how it goes sometimes, but
Mm-hmm.
we'll see what the pile is. I'm pretty interested. I want to see this Endurance, shuffling that Doomsday and mess some things up.
Me too. Well, it's tricky because like from the other side, you know you need to play around endurance. From the other side, you know you need to play around red blast. So then, how deep do you go into this tank? Which is like because like Doomsday, you get to stack your deck, right? So now it is really on the Doomsday player to Giga Brain this out and figure out how much interaction they want to play around. And maybe because they have the force will, they're just like, you know what, next turn I'm just going to go for the kill. Hope everything is okay. And if that happens, Jarvis is exactly he is very happy with that. Um,
Yeah,
I don't know.
so you're able to Wasteland the next turn, then you have both Endurance and Red Elemental Blast. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, what's cool potentially is that with Wasteland, you might be able to get it so that way when they play Thassa's Oracle, if they have 3 cards in their graveyard and then you shuffle it in, they don't win.
Okay. So yeah, we know there's going to be at least 2 cards in with the Doomsday and the Lotus Petal. Assuming Force of Will gets cast, that'll be 3. So you probably are going to hit the number of cards you want, but having an extra card in the graveyard for Underground Sea and Wasteland, you know, the connection that's being made is very solid here. Now the question I have is, what do you think Jim is playing around here, right? Because if you play around Wasteland, that means you have to have another mana source in your pile. You have to have Oracle in your pile. You also have to think about speed. So, like, do you even think you get to? Can you even afford to play around Red Elemental Blast and Endurance together?
Let me bring up the deck list again real quick.
Sure. And actually, what I probably should do.
So we
I'll
see
just
the
wait till
second
after
Force
this.
of Will there, which pairs with the other blue card. But you need to make mana.
Oh my goodness! Wait a minute. Crop rotation, is that good enough? Does that do anything? Uh,
Wait, so
uh,
if you kept Force there, you still have you. I guess Force was kind of interesting for me because like it means that you don't plan on casting like the Brainstorm because you could have just gotten Pact of Negation instead.
whoa! Well, there's Pact of Negation as well. Wow. So wait. Oh my goodness! This is just the. I'm just gonna literally wait 3 turns to kill you.
So are you saying the next card is Lotus Petal?
Wait a
And
minute.
the
Yeah, the last 3 cards are probably Petal, or be like Petal Land Oracle.
Petal. Oh yeah.
Are you even planning to cast this Brainstorm? You have to,
No.
right?
No, I don't think they are. I think their plan is to just naturally draw more sources. So I think the theory is like if I have these Force of Wills, I only need to counter Red Elemental Blast and Sphere of Resistance.
Sure.
Okay, this is interesting.
Yeah, I think the
Wait, how are we
I'm
making blue blue?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you
So,
have 2
so
mana
the
sources in the deck, and you have Oracle. This is tough.
okay, so
Oh, Petal Cavern. Interesting.
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
good one too. Yeah.
I do understand that.
Yeah. Oh, then. Okay. Interesting. So Jarvis is thinking about this very hard. He's thinking about red blasting the brainstorm. Now, I guess you Cavern really doesn't. Cavern does kind
Yeah.
of do it. You probably do want Cavern in some capacity because of Red Blast on Oracle. But then there's also Endurance into the mix. Okay, so Jarvis is just going to go Red Blast the Brainstorm. And I think in this position, you're just priced into forcing this back, right? You have to.
Yeah. So what's weird for me about this line is to like draw the counter magic when the only thing that matters is sphere of resistance, which they are already like would play on turn two. And then you can just make it so that way you can play the oracles sooner and then make the counter spells the last spells in the deck. That way you draw for those with like the times that you need to go a little bit deeper. I think
Okay,
it was
forcing
interesting to
forcing back.
choose. I think it was interesting to choose to draw the counters instead first, instead of the ability to kill sooner.
Oh, this is such fascinating timing for the Endurance.
Oh, it's good some amount of
Oh.
the time.
See, no, I'm saying I think this is very smart for Jarvis, right? Because Jarvis might be saying those last three cards could be interaction, and the two cards in your hand could be okay. There it is, Lotus Petal Cavern, and then
Yep.
Thassa's Oracle. So it's really good timing because you're going to win anyways with the Dark Depths combo in hand play if you put like 4 or 5 cards on the bottom of the deck because there's no cyclers. You know that for a
All
fact.
right,
I
so
guess you could.
Jarvis needs to draw a sphere or a blast or another endurance.
It's possible. It's very, very possible. We got a lot of cards. Dang! Yeah, I gotta respect that though. The Doomsday player just like
Wait,
thinking
do we
like,
have a good crop rotation target?
the only one that I can think of is like Ipnu Rivulet. Yeah, I do not think we have Ipnu Rivulet in our deck.
Nor blue source.
Oh, we're getting Wooded Foothills. Dang, we are. I feel
Yeah, I
like
can't think of any.
yeah, Jarvis's hand was kind of goated here, right? Like it was about as good as it gets. Blasta's murder works? No, Blasta's not. So basically, the way that the Doomsday player has played this out, they have 1 card left in their deck and 1 card in hand. The 1
Yeah,
card left
yeah,
in their
it's
deck
not
is an
blast.
Oracle.
Yeah,
Yeah. So then they'll have 0
yeah,
cards left in their deck, and 0 equals 0. And
yeah. I misspoke when I said blast. It's just endurance and sphere.
okay. Well, it was Blast was fine when. Oh wait, why do we do it this way? I feel like okay, we're just thinning our deck to draw something because the
Yeah,
Dark Depths. Yeah, there's just not a thing in play. So okay, cool.
and I think that's it. You didn't even update who won game one. It was so quick.
Oh yeah, I just whiffed on that. My bad. Yeah, well.
Well, do you know who's not gonna whiff? This Thassa's Oracle.
Yeah, I guess from what we can see, we have perfect information. And yeah, just props on Jim was able to actually win through double interaction and was able to win through a wasteland too. So like, that's just the wrong. Nice, we're here. So yeah, I'm pretty surprised actually that that happened. I want to see if the other players are still playing.
Yeah, I told them to start right away because I felt like this one's gonna be pretty quick. So,
Yeah, sure. So let me just go
and
ahead and.
if Wombo just wins one game that they have to play it out, we would be able to catch up. So it's fine.
True. So I'm just gonna go straight into it, I guess. I'm gonna go. Well, actually, there's a lag on YouTube, so we're gonna wait just a little bit. In the anti-ghosting technology. When I say it fancy, it sounds better. So walk me through that matchup then. Delver against Carnforge. What do you think is gonna happen? You're a Delver pilot, so you probably know this a little bit.
Yeah, I mean it's just the same as like most of the big mana e like
Okay.
defense grids type of things. It's like, okay, I need to apply enough pressure and use power of blue to make sure that I have enough things to fight you in your low velocity deck, and I'm 2-for-1ing all myself to hopefully be able to trade up against all your stuff. London Mulligan rule has helped the decks that aren't playing blue a lot more. It's a lot more powerful for them to mulligan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Play draw obviously matters, and your ability to play around days. And I think it's just a very interesting match where you jockey for position in a lot of spots. So like sometimes you can end up in a spot where you actually let defense grid resolve if you already have what you believe is enough pressure in play. So one thing Ragavan allows you to do is that
Yep.
you can get enough treasure over time that you can actually just leave 3 up to be able to force.
Okay.
If you think only one force is all you need in a given turn or whatever, like if they only have one payoff. Like if they only have one payoff in defense grid and you only have one force, but you think you have a surplus of mana sources, you can just let the defense grid resolve and then counter the thing that matters. So there's
Okay.
some interesting gamesmanship over there.
All right, so I'm going to set up the hands in just a second here, but why don't we just get into the match and see what's going on here? We can look at we can look at a board and then piece together what might be there. Wombo has 3 cards in the hand. Looks like Ryan has 6 cards in the hand, and the board state is now Lion's Eye Diamond, Lotus Petal, Manifold Key with the City of Traders against a Flooded Strand. So I think we will slowly figure out what is what, but I
So,
am looking forward
so,
to.
so what one could probably deduce that Wombo combo does not have another non-City of Trader land in hand.
Okay,
So choosing to wasteland it because the only times you're not happy is the times where it's another City of Traders.
sure,
Um, and we just see going for the Echo here.
nice. Okay, so for what it's worth, Wombo appears to be up a game. This is game 2, so playing back to the wall here. Ryan is fighting for his tournament
Surgical.
life. Yeah, this is interesting. What is it targeting? Surgical is targeting Karn, the Great Creator. Ooh, that's
Wow.
kind of interesting.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, Wombo is empty-handed
So
right now.
so I think Wombo Combo still has a Walking Ballista in the main.
Okay.
But what's really cool is that if they keep on making you draw 7, you can keep on playing surgicals if you draw them.
Yeah.
Depending on what goes to the graveyard and if it's like a necessary combo piece. So you have to make sure that your Walking Ballista doesn't go to the graveyard if you're losing it this way.
Uh. Okay.
And you also get to see how they sideboarded. Okay, so I'm trying to see. So yeah, you have one Walking Ballista in the main. That's your only way to win, but yeah, it definitely becomes a lot harder when you can't get the mesmeric orb or whatever piece you're missing from your sideboard with Karn.
Okay. We might. We might have a judge call.
What does that mean?
Oh. Okay.
Did
We
they
might have a
not
judge.
wait? I don't even know what a judge call would be. We're
Yeah,
playing
I
Magic
know, I know. So
Online.
so because the stream is open right now, I think Wombo uh moved to Chrome but realized that he had accidentally left the stream open. So he is telling me this right now, and I'm not really sure the best way to resolve. Is there like a judge that like is in the chat right now, like a level 1, 2, or 3, maybe
Wait,
4, 5?
wait, I don't understand the question.
So basically, like Wombo had the stream open because he's been in and out during the games and stuff like
Alright.
that. And then when we started our game, or when we started his game, I think he like alt tabbed, but is closing it. But since Echo is on the stack, it's a little bit awkward. So I'm not really sure.
Wait, why does it matter? We don't have Wing Hussar's hand up or anything. So if
Oh
they
yeah, I
just
guess that's a
close,
good point.
like, why does it matter? We don't have any of the hands.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. We never had Ryan's hand open, so you can continue. Nice, my production. You did it again. Just nice.
We're the whole package here. Just a bunch of happy accidents.
Oh, yeah, oh my god. Okay, but now in about a minute or so, okay, Ryan's hand is actually open now. So cool. I'm gonna just see this real quick if they're talking in like the other thing as well. Okay, never mind, they're not.
Yeah, I think everything should be fine
Okay, cool.
because of how quality our production is.
Woohoo! Dude, production is just so good. They need a raise. They need a raise. I said it. I said it.
Can we get some subs in the chat?
Oh my god. Think of the kids. Wait.
Think of honey.
Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, yeah. So I think the ultimate ruling that's a really good point that you brought up here. There was nothing to Ghost because this is all
Yep.
whatever. And if it did actually happen on accident, I think it would be a lot closer. And I think I would ultimately rule that like we just move on to the next game because it is just not a thing that I'd like to allow. But
Well,
since
yeah, yeah. Like, I'm assuming everything's fine, given that they probably exited Chrome by now and stuff. So,
yeah, yeah. So there, yeah, it's all good right now, and it's all closed. So I'm happy about that. Oh, I'm so fucking sorry. Language, find production wide. Cool. Right. So going back into it now, the Echo of Eons is going to resolve here. Surgical on Karn, the Great Creator, I think is actually kind of a pro move because like part of the reason why Lion's Eye Diamond / Echo of Eons is so powerful is because you dump a bunch of like action spells and they're able to immediately just get all your cards back, right? But if the quality of the cards that you're drawing, like if you dilute the potential of drawing into something that matters, then the
Mhm.
Echo of Eons functionally becomes a lot worse, right? So it's a matter of finding out how many cards in Wombo's deck actually matter, you know, and if there's still a reasonable saturation of them, then like I guess things are fine. But if there's not, like you see here, look at this, right? Post shenanigans, we have two Echo of Eons, Basalt Monolith Defense Grid, some other stuff here, but these aren't like I mean, you're not going to hard cast your Echo of Eons, right? So you need to find like a way to actually get it to go through.
So I think the interesting decision from Ryan's side was whether or not you daze to eat up one of the mana. So you're going to lose your land due to the echo, but you can make
Hmm.
them have like you're not losing a card in hand to do it because of the echo. You're losing a land in play.
Okay. So this is one of those situations. Defense grid is going to come into play. Okay. How do you feel about this? Do you force this?
I mean, you're not going to be able to leave 3 mana up. So I think just you get to force. You have a lot higher chance of hitting for 3 next turn. You get to be a slightly higher velocity by surveilling at least twice in the turn cycle. I think you got to force it.
Okay. Yeah, and that's boiling down to something that you were talking about when we were talking about the matchup, right? Which is that it is a function of mana. Sometimes, like you could have like pressure in play, or if you have like Ragavan and you make extra treasure tokens, then maybe you don't care about the defense grid because you just oh look at that, Deus off the top is pretty clean in a simplified state, simplified mana state when there's
You're
very
fine.
little mana in play. There we go, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of interesting. So Ragavan is kind of anti-defense grid technology, and if I say so, I think that's part of the reason why like the Storm Cabal has like slowed like the Epic Storm Cabal has sort of like moved off of defense grid because before they used to play that a lot, but with Monkey now it's very easy to pay
Yep.
for the defense grid side costs. So um interesting here.
So
Brainstorm.
here we get to put back two. This is like the same thing as last time. You get to put back two. Then you
Mm-hmm.
could play Mishra's Bauble and mill one of them if you want to. And then you can also play Ponder and mill, say, like another one. And then if you want, so if you mill, say, land and sorcery, and then you have Artifact already.
Yeah.
So you just got to plan out the next few turns, which isn't so bad. But Daze is your only counter magic there, and you kind of want to play Ponder ideally.
Okay.
Um,
So is
but
that there's a force of negation,
so
brainstorm, a
yeah,
volcanic, and a Mishra's Ball.
the hard part for me is that we chose to keep expressive iteration instead of Murktide Regent, so it makes some of your surveilling a little bit weirder. Like, I feel
Sure.
like we kind of just want to shove. But what Ryan is doing is that they're just expressing that the velocity matters the most. So that means they're probably going to surveil and have to bin the Murktide to try to get uh, this delirium here and just valuing being able to find more force effects, saying you can't have that many more things that matter in your hand. If I just find another force, I think I just kill you over time.
Sure. So it looks like wait, we didn't fetch or anything, right? Yeah, so we're binning the Murktide that we put on top of our deck with the
Yep.
Brainstorm, drawing another Brainstorm, Channeler attacks in for 3. And one thing that I wanted to say was uh it's kind of indicative of how maybe Ryan perceives the matchup. Like erring on the side of having enough permission to stop the haymaker spells as opposed to having a clock to or a faster clock to
Yep.
reduce the amount of time that Wombo can draw out of this situation here. And I kind of just feel like from my personal experience trying to out counter this deck is always a gamble. I feel like in order to win this matchup, you need to have dedicated cards if you're trying to take that route, like Null Rod, for example, as opposed to having like okay, well, that's yeah, that's the null rod equivalent, I suppose, in drawing meltdown. But I just feel like having like a billion forces is not like a sustainable way to win this matchup. What do you think?
I do agree, and I would have kept the Murktide region in hand, but putting the emphasis on how good Dragon Rage Channeler is at churning through your deck, and if you're going to bin everything that's not a counter spell, and sometimes you end up with another creature instead of the other way around, I kind of like understand the perspective there. Like if you get flooded on creatures, that ends up way worse for you. So I think that's the approach that Ryan's taken.
Yeah. Actually, now I have another thought too, which is if you think about it as well, Dragon's Rage Channeler and Murktide Region do have somewhat of an anti synergy, right? If you have at least at this early in the game, oh, picking up his Merrick Moore. Probably don't want to put that into play. But it just seems like
No, no,
maybe
keep an even board. You got to put into play.
yeah, you think so? Okay, because it
No.
is probably like what 1 or 2 points of power.
Oh wait, no,
Um,
it's really bad for you.
Wait, are you talking about the Mesmeric Orb or the Murktide Regent?
The Mesmeric Orb. I was joking that you could put the Mesmeric
Oh,
Orb
okay.
into play to keep it an even
I'm just like
playing
in the heat
field.
of the moment right now. I'm just like, oh, these guys are playing like 7D chess, and you're just like, hey, by the way,
Here's a
I see
joke
that
that's not
smile.
funny. Yeah.
All right, so I don't think I have.
Well, like you can easily just like refuel it though.
Why do I keep pressing this button?
Oh yeah, Shadow. Let's go.
So while we wait for the next game, that's going to be 1-1 now. So this is going into game 3 here, and I feel like on the play, the situation must be better for the Karnforge player here as we wait for what is actually going to come in here. Do you have any other thoughts on the matchup going into game 3?
Um, not in particular. I do think the decision to play surgical is pretty interesting. Like a lot of your cards are pretty good. Even
Mm-hmm.
your lightning bolts, being able to just go upstairs and then have a Murktide Regent. It's like really hard to quantify whether or not having even the first lightning bolt being a potential time lock and that you kill them a turn sooner is worth it or not.
Okay,
Because the more of a clock that you put them on, the better you make cards like Days because they have to play into it.
sure.
So it's kind of like the whole package that you like suite of stuff. So the question is like how often are you able to counter like when you do counter something, it's not like they can counter back. So if you counter a card like Mystic Forge and then you surgical it, how good is that? Like we're not in the age of a Gataxian probe where you know that you're taking one from the hand too. So if you're making the claim that okay, if I take all your forges and then you play Karn and then that makes you get another forge and now that's exactly enough mana for me to be able to daze you, then like that's fine. But Surgical's like a really interesting card against combo decks that aren't playing counter magic.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna transition back. Looks like the match is about to start, unless I'm juking you guys again. But I'll complete some prediction. I don't even know if I put in the right answer, but it's done is done. So we're gonna go into game 3 here, and let's take a look at what the draws are here. I mean, I think surgical extraction. It just goes back to what the Delver player perceives their role in is in the matchup. So, for example, I think the number one thing is that whatever your plan is, it needs to be cohesive, right? So when you said keep in the Murktide region and also the Lightning Bolt, that is cohesive. That is like going for the throat here, right? Whereas surgical extraction plus maybe cutting the lightning bolts is also cohesive with binning the Murktide region, saying, hey, I want to be more of a control role. Now, this hand, I see double force will. That is a banger. And on the other side, I don't know. Looks like Wombo has kept 7. This is
Well,
a turn 2 Karn? Turn 1
so
Karn?
so you say double force is a banger, but you also have no pressure, and that would leave you with like pretty much nothing in play. So
Okay,
it's kind of interesting. Like, are you forcing Grim Monolith, or are you forcing the cards that actually kill you?
sure.
But
By the way,
like, hmm?
do you counter that Grim Monolith after seeing the City of Traders? What kind of person are you? What kind of player are you?
I wouldn't. I would just counter the spells that matter. Just
Okay,
let them have
cool.
all the mana. Like if
Yeah,
I had daze and pressure, it's like slightly different, but
sure.
just jam. I didn't
All
come here
right.
not to jam. The key makes it interesting. I would consider countering key. I wouldn't consider countering any of the monoliths.
Okay, yeah. It's like City of Trader, I'm sure, has to change the calculus in some fashion or other because it is a land that will die when another land comes into play here. So that gives you a reasonable way to attack the mana. That being said, I'm not 100% sure. Like you said,
So
right? It can go one way or the other.
yeah. So Anu, I was just gifted a sub. Thank you. I apprate it.
Hey,
So can I
Target,
enter
what's
the
up?
tournament now? I'll
Ooh.
start with one loss. It's fine.
uh, no, you're too strong. We have to contain you. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, if you're in
Uh,
the tournament, who's gonna teach me how to fix my top 5 mistake? You know what I mean?
That's true.
Uh,
Okay, so one interesting decision from Ryan's side is do you wasteland here? Because the city's just going to kill itself, and you actually have a bunch of blue cards.
yeah.
Another interesting decision is whether or not you play Ponder, because you actually end up in a subset of times where you have like Brainstorm, 2 non-blue cards, and you're like, what if I need to cast 2 forces?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we found an expressive iteration, so I guess that solves that question. Another Karn. That's a money move. I really wonder if this.
I like
I-
the setup from Wombo. It's actually really elegant. So you're like trying to be like, hey, your days like might not be good enough, and like I get to figure out what my bait is. So imagine if you drew a second key, you might play this turn differently than if you drew a second card.
yeah. Right. It's like interesting. Manifold key is now on the stack. All right. I kind of want to know here, chat. Do you guys counter this? Poll 30. Yes. No. Do you counter this card right now?
Yeah, so like I said, I'd consider Key,
Mhm.
but I wouldn't consider any of the monoliths. There's like way more like I don't know. It's like if they already played City, it's kind of
Are there
weird.
more monoliths? Because now with Manifold Key in existence, you
It's like
have
6 versus 8, right?
oh, is that like the actual deck list? We could just literally count it. You're right. Okay. If you're saying 6 versus 8, then yeah, I guess it makes more sense to go after the Manifold Key here. Or you could just do what you said, which was to just give them all the mana and not worry about
Yeah,
it.
I like giving them all the mana.
Mm.
I'm pretty
It,
sure I let this happen.
yeah, it's a tough situation here. I think this is where you sort of need to like. It's not about the play in the moment, but about what the implications of this play in the moment are for turns down the line, right? Like
Chat chat would have timed out.
Chat would have. Chat would have. Wait, no, no, they tied. Jonathan, yes 5, no 5.
They're gonna time out. They just
Oh
can't
my
decide.
gosh. Oh. Okay, so Toast. Oh, Louis says no. All right, Louis is the tiebreaker. So this
I
manifold key.
I also say no. Like
Okay.
I do know
No,
the
no, no.
hands, but
You're
it's
not
just
allowed to
like
break the ties.
okay.
You're you have too much stake in the game now.
Oh no. Can I have steak for dinner too?
Ooh, sounds yummy. All right. So manifold key does end up resolving. Oh, this is tricky though, right? This is tricky though.
You just got a jam card.
Yeah, you just gotta do it. No ifs, ands, or buts. Force of will, pitching an expressive iteration, and now I kind of expect to see Wasteland come down for the City of Traders to turn off the manifold key.
That's a really good ponder. So you found 2 blue cards, which
Oh yeah.
is maybe not above average, but it's definitely not, bad. So you can play brainstorm or, whatever you
Yeah.
want, but you still have a blue card for your force of will. So that was a little bit dicey in the beginning, but ended up being fine. Good question. So like, do you wasteland the city? I
Louis
think
says
you're
he
I think you're
dislikes
allowed
wastelanding the
to.
city so much, and I kind of want to see Louis' extrapolation here. Look, I'm not a wasteland gamer. I'm slowly like inching into it, having just added 2 wastelands to my control deck, so I don't really
Wait,
know.
no, you play Death and Taxes.
Oh no, not you two, Dad. You are the chosen one. Wait, but this is a tight draw. Wait, manifold key now you can untap both, slam Karn,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
I
like,
yeah, you eventually hope that you can like cast Echo once or twice or something. Like you just have all the mana but nothing to do. It's kind of what I was saying. Like they
mhm.
only have so many action spells and they don't have a defense grid, so it's just like, okay, how many things can you have? So what Wombo's choosing here to do is to just have more big mana and try to have one really big turn.
Mhm.
Um, the times where that's bad is the times where their hand was exactly force blue card in all lands.
Yeah.
Then you really want to jam here because now you're allowing them to power blue like blue cantrips into more blue cantrips. Now they have force blue card and other blue card, and then that's bad
Yeah,
for
yeah, they
you.
upgrade their hand exactly. Yeah, so it's tough, but I mean, I understand it. Look, like Wombo understands the tension in this deck and how to navigate through Delver, and they're here in the semifinals, top 4, I guess, if you will, of this double elimination tournament. And looks like Brainstorm is going to put back some cards, and yeah, just main phase fetching probably for F6 value, not wastelanding the second City of Traders. That's the more critical thing, and then we're going to top deck a Voltaic Key. So it looks like now for sure we just have to slam, right? Like we even have Voltaic Key to keep maybe a monolith untapped for the next turn if we force. So the way I parse it is the basalt monolith is 3 mana, and the manifold keys each represent 2 mana because it's 1 mana to untap a 3 mana, so you're net 2 mana, but you have to have the initial cost to pay for it. That might be a little bit confusing, but everybody who's watching this is super smart, so they understand it. I'm not going to worry about that. But the Voltaic Key is good in that it like gives you something. If your Karn gets forced and your City of Traders gets wastelanded, you have access to mana next turn, if that makes sense. I
Mhm.
think. Might be wrong. I think I'm right. Okay. Joke's on me. Uh-oh. But looks like what's going to happen here. Force of Will with Days in the hand, double expressive iteration. Means that Murktide region is going to come down as a 6/6, and that's a Swords to Plowshares. What is that even doing in this deck? I mean, what?
Well, it
Wow.
makes sense. There's one in the sideboard with the 3 portable holes. So it's so that way your Mox Opal, you have 2 Tundras and 2 snow-covered plains to be able to answer cards like Ragavan and I guess Murktide Region too. And
What
if
do
you
you feel
play enough
about Wombo's
cards that,
patience?
well, if you play like enough cards that can demand counter spells, like if they kept a heavy-ish counter spell hand with 1 creature and then you're able to off the creature, like they will counter it. So then, you're just upping the threat density. The
Yep.
problem is we also just can't cast the spells in our hand.
Yeah. Tough. I guess Tundra is in the deck here. Expressive Iteration. I'm going to pick up a copy of Ragavan Nimble Pilfer, and I'm assuming that we're going to play another land here off the iteration, or maybe it just found 1 spell and we don't have colored mana to pay for the. Is that what's happening? Do we actually not? Did Expressive Iteration actually fail in this case? No way. Maybe it did. That's not impossible to think about.
Okay,
No honey cam.
so
Toast. I literally tried to add honey to the stream 4 times, and each time I added it, it crashed. Maybe I should have just crashed the stream a little bit more. Oop. Jonathan's counting.
4, 5, 6. Yeah, I think you got to make an 8 ballista if you throw
Oh,
everything into it.
I didn't even see the blister, right? So it's 2, yeah, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I
Wait,
count.
that would be 7. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, you're right. Thanks.
Okay. Which is decent because now you can play a 7/7 ballista. Not even a 7/7. You don't even need it to be a 7. Just like a 6/6 ballista is sufficient. You play a 6/6 ballista, it gets Force of Willed, and then you have 2 mana left over to like maybe untap a something or something, and then next turn you get to play Karn through forces. And this is what I was trying to say, right? Earlier is that like just trying to out counter this deck doesn't work. You need dedicated cards that do dedicated things. And I don't know. I'm not surprised that Wombo like, and that's why a card like Swords to Plowshares is really good, right? Because if your opponent tries to like prioritize interaction, eventually you will just draw out of it. You play so many haymakers. This is a deck that like just puts mana into play and then like 12th post hopes to do its thing.
Hmm. So how big is this? 5, 5?
Big. I don't think it's a 5/5.
Well, we have
Really?
4 left, and it could have been a 7/7, right? So isn't that a
Mathematically,
5/5?
your argument makes sense. Yeah.
So here you're trying to say like you have to have days too, because I'm gonna play this card.
Yeah.
And pitching the days. The plan's
Wow.
working. Oh no, the plan's not working. So the reason why the plan stopped working is because if you play Karn and then your Karn's gonna die, so you need to get something that's good enough, then they can wasteland your City of Traders, and then you're all tapped out, and you need to draw an untapped land.
That's crazy. Still, I'm thinking about that. What if you draw land, then you have access to 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. So you'd have to get like exactly like Ensnaring Bridge or something, and that seems kind of.
Well, Ensnaring Bridge is kind of weird with your uncastable spells in your
Yeah,
hand.
exactly. Right. Exactly. So. Wow. Okay. That's kind of crazy. Not gonna lie. I don't know. From this position, who do you think is gonna win? I see Expressive Iteration on the stack. I have to imagine
I
that.
mean, I'd bet on Ryan, but
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. So I almost wonder if there was a situation where we could have just jammed the Karn a lot sooner, get rid of that Force of Will, because if we die with this Karn in hand, I will feel very bad. You know what I mean?
the card's not gonna be in hand. We're gonna cast the next turn.
Oh,
So
that is.
we would have cast it. Oh, we can
Ch-
still cast the next turn. It's
Children, look
just not.
away. Look away from the screen. Look away from the screen.
Yeah,
No.
that's quite a good hit.
Oh my god. I think that's what I'm talking about, right? Like you need
Wait,
to
Mystic
have
Forge. It can happen.
at 6.
You can
It's
Mystic Forge into like opals and LED and stuff like that. It can happen.
okay. Yeah, sure. It's a good
Might
rebuy.
have been the best draw.
It may be. Yeah, actually, now that I think about it. Well, otherwise, you have how much mana? You have 5 mana. Otherwise, okay. Wombo's going for it. Mystic Forge.
Opal.
Oh,
Oh,
exiled 1 card.
opal.
Do it.
Concede.
Oh, close. All right. Yeah, Grim Monolith will take you. Just not getting there for a while. So that means we have.
Shadow.
I just keep doing it, man. I should just get rid of this button.
I'll,
You know,
I'll,
that's
I'll take Sandy Dog and Edgar in all my top 8s. Let's
yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All very good players. You like notice them immediately. Yeah. So that was kind of cool. I want to say that like, I mean, obviously like the blue deck like was doing like a bunch of like, you know, like sculpting and things like that. But the way Wombo played that match, showing like discipline with the cards in hand and things like that, was pretty good. Um,
Yeah,
so
so
right now,
some
you
good
got
expertise there. So I'm pretty sure it's Doomsday against Blue Red Delver in the finals.
that is exactly what it's going to be here. And like I said before, oh, man, Doomsday can do some nasty things to players, but the one deck that keeps Doomsday in check is Delver, and I would not be surprised to see Ryan take down this whole event on Blue Red Delver, which is like a anticlimactic story, especially when you consider that it was a very small portion of this meta. I mean, looking back, I think there were maybe like 3 players. Actually, of a 40 player event, 3 players is about what, 7.5%, maybe
Sure.
4 players, so it's like 10%. But that's like a reasonable metagame share for arguably the best deck in the room or whatever, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, it's interesting, guys. I am going to go and take a quick break. Don't go.